Welcome back. As we have learned from the first module, data protection law has been introduced in Malaysia through the Personal Data Protection Act 2010, or in short, the PDPA. The Act seeks to protect the rights of individuals over their personal data through imposing certain duties and responsibilities on companies and organizations like yours who collect and process such data. Quiz time! Do you remember how many principles there are under the PDPA? Have a go. 5 principles? 6 principles? 7 principles? Yes, there are 7 principles under the PDPA, which governs how personal data can be collected and processed. It is important for your company to comply with these principles when handling personal data to avoid punitive consequences like fines and imprisonment. We'll look at each principle closely in the following modules. Do you know what kind of information is regarded as personal data? We'll find out in this module. Quiz time! Which of these is not an example of personal data as defined under the PDPA? Pick the right one. Your credit card details, CCTV footage of you, your boss's opinion about you, your company's registered address and company number, list of names of the board of directors of your company. In a nutshell, personal data is any information that personally identifies a person. The information has to be able to pinpoint one particular individual. For example, just a single piece of information, such as Amy Lim, may not meet this test because there could be many people named Amy Lim in a particular location. But when that name is taken together with, let's say, her phone number or her home address, then you can identify a specific person based on the information that you have. In this case, the information can then be regarded as personal data. It is important for you to know that the PDPA only applies to personal data in respect of commercial transactions, which include the supply or exchange of goods and services, and employment relationships. Hence, customer information and employee information are regulated under this Act. Meanwhile, information about a director of a company, such as his name, identity card number or passport number, home address, is also personal data as it concerns individuals. Personal data that is used purely for domestic purposes, such as keeping a list of names of people to invite to a family dinner, will not be covered under this Act because this type of information is not in respect of any commercial transaction. Under the Act, personal data also includes an expression of opinion about an individual, as long as it is within the context of a commercial transaction. This would cover things like a reference letter from your former employer or a performance appraisal of you by your current boss. Even images such as CCTV footage of individuals who enter business premises are considered to be personal data if the image is clear enough to identify that person. Meanwhile, other information that you collect and process about other companies, such as company name, company number, company address, is not personal data because it is not data about people. There is also a subcategory of personal data in the Act known as sensitive personal data. This is information about people which has a higher level of sensitivity. Sensitive personal data is information about a person's physical and mental health, political opinions, religious beliefs, and commission or alleged commission of offense. It is important for you to be able to recognize what would be regarded as sensitive personal data, because this type of information has to be handled with even greater care and requires explicit consent from the individual before it can be processed. The Personal Data Protection Act mainly concerns these 3 parties: 1. Data subject, 2. Data user, and 3. Data processor. It is important for you to be familiar with these terms because they will frequently come up in later modules. Let us imagine a scenario to explain these 3 parties. This is Mary. Mary is a career woman who is also a mother of 2. She is constantly busy juggling her working life and her family responsibilities. To save time, Mary tries to do as much as possible online. Mary has recently started shopping online at Zeroka.com, a famous Malaysian online beauty and clothing company. When she registered an account with Zeroka.com, Mary revealed some of her personal information, such as her name, address, birth date, email address, telephone number. She also answered a quick survey on her personal preferences in terms of clothing and beauty style. Meanwhile, Zaroka.com, whose customers number in the millions, has received an overwhelming amount of customer data, including Mary's. Given its large customer database, it decided to appoint Datago SDN BHD to support the processing and management of its customer database. Under the Act, the term processing is defined widely to cover almost everything that a company does with people's data, including collecting it, storing it, using it, disclosing it, and even deleting it. In this scenario, Mary, the person whose data has been collected and processed, is the data subject because the data is about her. Zaroka.com, the company whom Mary is transacting with, is the party who has control over Mary's information. It can either process the data on its own or delegate the processing to a third party, as it is done in this case. Here, Zaroka.com is the data user. Meanwhile, Datago SDN BHD is the vendor who is processing Mary's data on behalf of Zaroka.com. It is just carrying out a service and do not have control or ownership of the data. Datago SDN BHD is known as the data processors. The responsibility to take care of Mary's data stays primarily with Zaroka.com, the data user. To recap on the Personal Data Protection Act, the Act seeks to protect the rights of the data subject by placing certain duties and responsibilities on the data users who collect and process such data. Now that we have a good idea of what is meant by personal data, we'll move on the following modules to see what a company's obligations are in respect of the data. End of Module 2. Thank you.